Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're taking a closer look at some really interesting sources you shared, The Learner.
Yeah, all centered around managing stress and, boosting well-being.
We've got material from Northfield Public Schools on mindfulness and even healthy baking,
And then helpguide.org with strategies for stopping worry.
plus insights from Lumen Learning on individual stress management and a broader view on simple living from Wikipedia.
Right. And the mission really is to dig through these and pull out some practical, maybe even surprising takeaways for you.
The idea is to feel more informed, more empowered, but not completely overwhelmed by it all.
Exactly. Actionable stuff.
Okay, so where should we start? Something that really jumped out at me was mindfulness. It pops up in a couple of places.
Yeah, both the Northfield Public Schools piece, which I think was from, 2018?
November 2018. Yeah. It framed mindfulness as a way to deal with holiday stress specifically.
Which can be a really intense time for stress.
Right. Definitely. And helpguide.org also puts mindfulness front and center for reducing worry and anxiety.
It's all about bringing your attention to the present moment, which sounds simple, but
It's harder than it sounds sometimes.
it really is. But that's the core idea, pulling back from future worries or past regrets.
So what kind of specific techniques did they mention? The Northfield article had this body scan thing.
Oh yeah, the body scan, that's a classic.
It described starting by just noticing your feet on the floor, kind of grounding yourself,
Then wiggling your toes.
and then slowly moving your attention up your body, left leg, right leg, torso, arms, head.
It's a very systematic way to, inhabit your body and get out of your head for a bit.
Yeah, feels very practical. And Help Guide mentioned mindful breathing, too.
Right. Using your breath as an anchor, just noticing the inhale, the exhale. It can really bring you back when your mind's racing.
A simple tool you always have with you.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's meditation more broadly.
Both sources pointed to that as a way to shift focus away from worries.
Help Guide actually mentioned some research, something about boosting activity in brain areas linked to serenity and joy.
Wow, really? So it's not just feeling calm, it might actually change your brain chemistry or structure.
Well, the idea is that regular practice strengthens those neural pathways. Some studies even suggest, increased gray matter in the prefrontal cortex over time.
That's fascinating. So it's building resilience, not just a quick fix.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a long-term investment in your mental state.
Okay, sticking with the Northfield article for a moment, it also touched on diet.
Ah, yes, the connection between food and health. They cited some research from Johns Hopkins.
Suggesting potential negative effects from high meat consumption.
And their survey data was interesting, too. A lot of people were already cutting back.
Yeah, 55% reducing processed meat, 41% red meat.
And the main reasons,
Yeah,
saving money or trying to be healthier, practical motivations.
makes sense. But they did advise checking with a doctor, right, about reducing meat.
Absolutely. It's always got to be personalized. What works for one person might not be right for another. Important caveat.
Good point. Okay, now this part was fun, the healthy baking substitutions in that same Northfield article.
Oh, I thought this was pretty neat, too, making over holiday recipes.
Yeah, swapping out fats to cut calories but keep things creamy, apparently without the cholesterol.
And the bonus is you might actually add more fiber, vitamins, good stuff.
They suggest starting small, like replacing just a third of the fat first.
Yeah, ease into it. See how it affects the texture.
And they had specific examples, like instead of a cup of butter, use a third cup applesauce and 2/3 cup butter.
Right, or for heavy cream, using cornstarch whisked into fat-free milk.
Clever.
And those visuals they had.
Some were surprising. Applesauce for oil or butter makes sense.
Kind of similar texture. But pureed avocado for butter.
I know, avocado in, like cookies.
You'd think it would add richness, but maybe a specific flavor, too. Wonder what it works best in.
And prunes. Pureed prunes with boiling water instead of butter.
That one sounds wild, doesn't it? But apparently, the sugars and fiber in prunes can mimic fat's role in moisture and binding.
Huh. Plus fiber. And then flax meal and water for butter, that's more common, like for vegan baking.
Right, adds omega-3s, too. It just shows there are lots of ways to tweak things for health.
Definitely opens up possibilities. Okay, let's switch gears to helpguide.org and their advice on stopping worry.
This is such a big one for so many people. Chronic worrying.
They start by saying it's a mental habit, something you can actually break, which is hopeful.
Yeah, it reframes it. Not something you are, but something you do.
And one strategy they suggest is postponing worry. It sounds strange.
It does initially. But the idea is you set aside a specific, limited time each day, say 20 minutes, your official worry period.
Okay.
If a worry pops up outside that time, you write it down and tell yourself, okay, I'll deal with this at 5 p.m.
So you're not trying to stop worrying completely, just contain it.
Exactly. You give it a designated slot. And often, by the time that slot rolls around, the worry might seem less urgent, or you can tackle it more rationally.
Interesting approach. They also talked about challenging anxious thoughts, didn't they?
Cognitive distortions, those unhelpful thinking patterns that warp reality.
Like all or nothing thinking. Everything's black or white.
Or overgeneralizing from one bad experience.
Yeah.
And catastrophizing.
Right, where a small mistake feels like the end of the world. I sent that typo, I'm definitely getting fired.
Yeah, that spiral. Where emotional reasoning, I feel anxious, so there must be danger. And all those shoulds we beat ourselves up with.
So the advice is to recognize these patterns.
Recognize them, yeah. And then treat the negative thought like a hypothesis. Ask yourself, what's the actual evidence for this?
Be a bit more objective about your own thought.
Precisely. And they distinguish between worrying and actual problem solving.
What's the difference there?
Worrying is often just spinning your wheels mentally, going over the same fears without moving forward.
Right, just looping.
Problem solving is active. You evaluate the situation, brainstorm actual solutions, make a plan, take steps. It's productive.
So figure out if the worry is something you can actually do something about.
Exactly. If yes, make a plan. If no, well, that's harder.
What do they suggest for uncontrollable worries?
Practicing acceptance of uncertainty. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Challenging the need to have all the answers right now. Maybe looking at how others cope with uncertainty.
Acceptance. That takes practice.
Definitely. And they also mention interrupting the worry cycle physically.
Like exercise, yoga, meditation, deep breathing.
Yeah, things that shift your focus and calm your nervous system, break a mental loop.
And talking to people, getting support.
Crucial. Getting an outside perspective can make a huge difference. Plus, mindfulness again, bringing you back to the present.
It all seems to connect, doesn't it? Okay, let's look at Lumen Learning. They focus more on individual stress management, particularly around work.
Right, and time management was a big piece of that.
Makes sense. Feeling overwhelmed by your schedule is a huge stressor.
So they hit on the basics. Task lists, prioritizing, figuring out when you're most alert for tough tasks.
Standard stuff, but important. What else?
Learning to say no, that's key. And cutting out low priority stuff that just drains time.
Saying no is hard.
It really is, but necessary for boundaries.
Yeah.
And I liked their idea about flexibility.
Oh, the 50% planning thing.
Yeah, only scheduling about half your day, leaving the rest as a buffer for unexpected things.
That seems really practical. Builds in resilience against disruptions.
Definitely reduces that feeling of being constantly derailed.
They also had some interesting points about using technology, but to protect work-life balance, not destroy it.
Right, using tech tools smartly, like calendar settings to automatically block off non-work hours.
Or VIP inboxes so you're not pinged by every single email.
Mobile carrier blackouts, or, the radical act of just turning the devices off.
Imagine. It's so simple, but we rarely do it.
That intentional disconnection is vital. And they also mentioned managers.
Yeah, that managers should be aware of stress relief practices for themselves and their teams.
And that allowing time for things during work, like a lunchtime yoga class or a financial wellness workshop, isn't frivolous.
It can actually boost engagement and save costs in the long run.
That's the argument. Less burnout, fewer stress-related absences. Makes business sense, potentially.
Okay, finally, let's broaden out to this idea of simple living from the Wikipedia source.
Yeah, this takes a more philosophical lifestyle approach.
It's defined as practices that promote simplicity. Less stuff, less reliance on tech and services, spending less.
But it's also a mindset, isn't it? About values.
Definitely. And the motivations are so varied. Spirituality, health, more time with family.
Work-life balance again, financial reasons, environmentalism.
And reducing stress is a big one. Or just pushing back against consumer culture.
It's not a new fad either. They mention historical figures, religious traditions, thinkers like Thoreau.
Simplify, simplify. Still resonates.
It really does. And the practice is varied too. Reducing consumption is a big one.
Less stuff, less work maybe, less debt, more time.
You see movements like the 100-Thing Challenge or tiny houses tapping into that.
And increasing self-sufficiency, growing food, focusing on local stuff.
Reducing dependence on the big systems. Being more of a producer than just a consumer.
And reconsidering technology, some simplify by dishing it, others by using it more mindfully.
Like we just discussed with Lumen Learning's points. It's about intentionality.
And diet comes up again, simplifying food choices, often towards whole foods.
Yeah, sometimes linked to environmental or animal welfare concerns, too.
And the direct link to stress reduction seems pretty clear throughout.
Absolutely. Less financial pressure, more time, focus on non-material things. It all points towards potentially less stress.
Okay, so that was a lot to unpack from those sources.
A real mix of practical tips and bigger picture ideas.
So if we were to try and summarize the key takeaways for you, the learner, what stands out?
Well, mindfulness seems crucial. Techniques like body scans or mindful breathing offer immediate help and long-term benefits.
Right. And small dietary changes, maybe less meat, trying those baking swaps can genuinely impact health.
Definitely. Then there's actively managing worry, not just letting it happen, but using strategies like postponing it or challenging those negative thoughts.
Breaking that mental habit and time management and being intentional with technology that's vital for balance.
Protecting your time and focus.
And finally, this idea of simple living, even just incorporating aspects of it, seems like a fundamental way to reduce pressure and maybe find more well-being.
It all connects, really. Being present, nourishing yourself, managing thoughts, managing time and resources, simplifying.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is considering all these interconnected themes.
Mindfulness, diet, worry, time, simplicity. What small shift, maybe just one thing, resonates most with you right now?
Yeah, what's one simple, tiny step you can maybe take today just to explore that area a little bit further for yourself?